and welcome to another Vlogmas video, day 3 of Vlogmas, from me, Lauren, from Lauren and the Books. Welcome to day 3 of Vlogmas. So we're deep into Vlogmas now, but in this video I'm going to be thinking about all the books that I read in the month of November. So I've actually only got 2, 4, 6 physical books here, but I read a lot more than that. I read 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 books in November, which is bloody good going. Well done me. So I'm going to talk about the audiobooks that I read first, the books that I don't have here with me. I'm going to group 2 of these together. The first one, the first 2 being Career of Evil and Lethal White, which are both the 3rd and 4th book in the Cormoran Strike series, written by Robert Galbraith, who is also known as J.K. Rowling. These are books where you follow Cormoran Strike, who's a private investigator, and his partner in the business, Robin Ellicott. I really like both of these books because they've almost established Robin and Cormoran's relationship in them, and for me that's what I'm really getting into with the books. I'm enjoying reading much more about Robin and Cormoran than I do about the cases. The cases are like fantastically written, and honestly I have no idea, even going back, this was a reread for me to listen to the audiobooks. And to go back and even sort of having a sort of slight, almost knowing what's going on, I'm still like, God, there's so much woven into it. I really enjoy them. I feel like they're almost like, and I don't even really like this term, but like guilty pleasure territory for me. I just get so much joy out of them. I remember when Lethal White came out for the first time last year, I remember just sort of like absolutely bashing through it, listening to it and just loving it. And I remember Mercedes saying the same. She'd like got home and would listen to it and just lay on the sofa. And that's the sort of level of enjoyment. Then they're narrated by Robert Glenister, who does a fantastic job. Yeah, really enjoy them. And if you like crime books, I feel like you would really like these as well. They're quite lengthy. I was just looking because my Mickey and Minnie are having a little smooch, just sort of like just hiding above there, but they are in a present. It is a Christmas t-shirt, I promise. So yeah, so those 2 books are the first 2 I wanted to talk about. The next book is Finding My Voice, Nadia's honest, unforgettable memoir by Nadia Hussain. Now, Nadia Hussain is a massive, like, I love her. She's a massive role model of mine. I find her amazing. She won the Great British Bake Off, which is a baking competition that's shown on the BBC over here. She won it about 5 or 6 years ago now, quite some time ago. And I loved her on that, and I really wanted her to win on that. And then since then, I've really quite closely followed her her career. I love her TV shows. I love her. I find her so like so inspiring. I know it's such a it feels like such a daft word to use, but like I adore her. Like, she really is. Not only do I find her like a fantastic worker, she works so hard. She bakes every day, even though she's like bringing up 3 kids and writing books and writing cookbooks and presenting TV shows and being a wife and things. She still finds time to bake every day, and she bakes her husband a cake every day, which I just find adorable. I actually met Nadia last year at the Headline Showcase event, where they were talking about the books that were coming out in 2019, and this was one of the books they were talking about. So this is her memoir, written in a really original way. I haven't read any memoirs like this before. I listened to the audiobook of this, which is narrated by Nadia herself, which was lovely, and she talks about herself from all different perspectives. So one chapter will be called daughter, one chapter will be called wife, one chapter will be called sister, sister-in-law, daughter-in-law, mother, and it's a really interesting way to do it, to sort of find out about different aspects of her life told that way. And I really enjoyed it. I really thought it was great. Now, I don't like, for me, I'm not going to say it was the best thing I've ever read, because the writing aspect of it wasn't like, it's not like one of the most beautiful memoirs I've read, but it felt really real. It felt like we were having a chat, and she's very personable, and I think that's why I enjoyed the audiobook so much. So yeah, enjoyed it. Well done Nadia. Very much enjoyed. Next one. The next audiobook I listened to, I didn't love as much. I think I gave it 1 star, and that's Breaking and Mending, a memoir of burnout recovery and the journey to become a doctor by Joanna Cannon. Now, I've read things by Joanna Cannon before. 3 Things About Elsie is a book that I've absolutely loved, The Trouble with Goats and Sheep, so I've read fiction by her before, but I didn't realise that she used to be a junior doctor, and she came to sort of becoming a junior doctor quite late in her life, and this was a memoir of her experiences as a junior doctor. Now, when I work in the NHS, so I work with junior doctors quite closely. I deal with them on a daily basis. I sort of see the extreme conditions they're working under, and I can fully appreciate and understand how hard and difficult that is. On the flip side, one of my favourite books that I've ever read is This Is Going to Hurt by Adam Kay, which is a collection of The Secret Diaries of a Junior Doctor, which I found sort of like insightful, like hilarious, but also like morbidly miserable. And I loved that book so much. But Joanna Cannon's account, it just felt so sad to me. It really felt so sad, so much so that it was like bringing me down. There was a lot about death in there. There was a lot, and I'm aware when you're a doctor a lot of your life is about death, but there was a lot of like I was like feeling sad before I was even going in to listen to it. It just didn't do great things for me, just made me feel really sad. And there was sort of like horrific accounts of like horrible deaths that I was not prepared for, and just like sadness, and it really made me think about death a lot, like talking about like, there was a lot of chat in there about there was a lot of like in there about people who, like the people you would leave behind, and it really started making me think like quite morbid thoughts. So yeah, I didn't get on with this book and I gave it 1 star. I did finish it. It was a really short audiobook, it's about 6 hours long, but it wasn't for me. I gave it 1 star. And then the last audiobook I listened to was Normal People by Sally Rooney, a revisit for me. I read Normal People by Sally Rooney last year. One of my favourite books of last year. Really loved it, and the audiobook did not disappoint, and I loved it just as much. You follow 2 people who are in and out of a relationship, be it like friendship and a sort of sexual romantic relationship, Connell and Marianne, and at both times, and always throughout their story, one of them sort of like higher in a social standing level than the other person, and you follow their sort of like journeys through all sorts, not only just their friendship, but like assault and mental health problems, and journeying through university, and I just loved it. I just think it's one of the best books I've ever read, and to go back to it a second time and to love it even more than I loved it the first time, and I really loved it the first time, so amazed that I loved it just as much. Loved it. Think it's honestly one of the best books I've ever read. Thought it was absolutely amazing, and again, that was quite a short audiobook, and I could have listened to that, like I could have sat and listened to the whole thing. Thought it was amazing, so gave that 5 stars, as I gave it 5 stars last year. So amazing selection of audiobooks this month. Really good, like really high raters. So just leaning across. Before I get on to the books, I've just got to show you a picture book that I read. Now, I saw this picture book, Jen was talking about this. I think she was just, I think she just hauled it. I can't remember if she was wrapping it up, but she talked about it, and I just thought, I would love that book, and I've actually bought it for 3 people, 3 little ones I know this Christmas, and one of those copies of the book I read. So I thought I would mention it here because I feel like it's a really great gift. Again, this is a gift. You can have this, but this isn't even in the gift guide, but this is just a really good, oh, excuse me, I'll have to put that back. This is just a really great children's book that I loved so much, and I feel like children would appreciate it. This is Beast Feast by Emma Yartlett. And this is slightly like The Jolly Christmas Postman, which is another book that I really love. So you're following Beast as he sort of decides that he's very hungry and he wants to find dinner. So he captures dinner, and this is dinner here. And you see him inviting all of his guests to the feast that they're going to have, where they're going to eat dinner, and there's letters in here which you can open, and yeah, just really cute and just so funny, and really loved it. Like the illustrations are amazing, and just found it so fun. Like the opening up of things is really fun as well. It's not just all the same sort of like letter format. I just loved it. I really enjoyed it very much. David and I read it. I actually read it to David when he was sat in the bath, and we both enjoyed it so much. So yeah, gave that 5 stars. Really thought it was a lovely children's book, and definitely a great one for children this Christmas if you're looking for a Christmas book. And if you know me in real life, there is a chance that your child has got this for Christmas. So yes, but now on to the 6 books that I have here. So the first one is, and this was like a million years ago I finished this. I think I finished this on the 1st of November, which is The Book of Dust, The Secret Commonwealth. This is volume 2 of The Book of Dust by Philip Pullman. Now, you all know what this is. This is the second book in the Book of Dust trilogy, which runs sort of before, alongside, and after his Dark Materials. This is the second one where Lyra is a grown-up. She's 20 years old. There were parts of this book that I really liked. There were parts of this book I felt a bit meh about, which is sadder than me hating them in some ways. But I also felt that when I read the first book of Dust, La Belle Sauvage, and I read this, and on going back and listening to the audiobook of The Belle Sauvage, which is narrated by Martin Sheen, I enjoyed it much, much more. So I feel like maybe I will enjoy this much, much more if I go back and listen to the audiobook of it. There's parts of it which are super, super sad. So like Lyra and Pan have had a falling out, and you never really, like, you do get to the bottom of it without giving spoilers away. I can't really, it's hard to not give spoilers away, but I just felt really sad about Lyra and Pan being not pals anymore, particularly because I'm watching the His Dark Materials series on the BBC at the moment, and there's such good pals in that. But yeah, I think I gave this 3 stars, and I definitely think there's room for manoeuvre in that. I would just need to listen to it on audiobook, because I tend to find that that's how I enjoy these books a little more that way. The next 3 books are books that I've mentioned in my favourites video. So if you've watched my favourites video, you'll already see that these have appeared. The first 2 are Volumes 1 and 2 of Heartstopper. These are library books, so they're shiny. These are by Alice Osman, and you follow these 2 characters on the front cover of both of these, Nick and Charlie, who are at school. I'm so sorry, I've got like a tickly throat. I think it might be one of the candles that we've lit. Nick and Charlie, who are navigating their way through school, which is a tough enough time as it is, and they're in a relationship together, and they are super sweet together, super cute. The accompanying sort of like characters around are really well formed. The illustrations isn't like the most detailed illustrations I've ever seen, but it works so well. I absolutely flew through these. They're so heartfelt, and I read them both with such a sort of like, not even like a massive grin on my face, just like a really happy little smile, like just the whole way through. The love story's adorable. The backstory is lovely. Anything that's going on sort of around it is also really interesting and important. And yeah, there's just moments in this where I had like wet eyes, where I was just enjoying myself so much, and they're just so heartfelt. Cannot wait for Volume 3. Brilliant, absolutely love them so much. And I can say the same about the next book, which I also gave 5 stars and I also really loved, and that's Queenie by Candice Carty-Williams. This is a women's contemporary fiction book, and I sort of try not to repeat myself too much, but I also said this in my favourites video, that women's contemporary fiction is not one of my favourite genres at all. I would go as far as to say I almost hate it, and I read Queenie because I'd heard such good things. And I really loved it. I really, really loved it. I loved her. She was so real, and there was so much in here that I was expecting to happen because it was women's contemporary fiction. Like, she meets someone at work who she sort of the beginnings of a like semi-relationship happen. Before it just completely goes to shit. And I really wasn't expecting it, because every women's contemporary fiction book I've read, the girl always gets the guy and it always works so smoothly for her, and that's not real fucking life. This is real life. And she also has a mental health battle, and her mental health battle is so close to the way I felt when I was feeling anxiety and having panic attacks and things like that, and it's one of the closest accounts to that I've ever read. She's also really like, although I found her very likeable, she's also very, very flawed, and I really appreciate the author, Candice Carty-Williams, for doing that. I just loved it. I feel like it's really, really cleverly done and important and enjoyable, and like still got the sort of like jaunty feel of women's contemporary fiction, which I know is what that's why it's such a popular genre, because you do get involved in the story. Yeah, I really, really loved it. So really, really enjoyed that. Gave it 5 stars. One of my favourite books of the year, which is a massive shocker. The next one is also another book. I've had such a good reading book in reading month in November. It's been amazing. Constellations by Sinead Gleeson. Reflections from Life. So this is a series of essays packed up in this beautifully published hardback book, with like gorgeous end papers. About Sinead Gleeson's body and her life sort of told through her body. Now, she's had a whole host of sort of illnesses and operations and procedures she's had to have done, and this sort of book shows what it's like to not have that much body autonomy when your body almost belongs to someone else because they're working on it so much for you, and it also is. She's an Irish woman, so it's told via like what it's like to live as a woman in Ireland with a body, and I just found it really, really eye-opening and important, and yeah, really, really great, really, really amazing. And then the last book I read was a book that I read for my online, for my Patreon book club, and that was To the Bright Edge of the World by Elwyn Ivy. which I didn't love. I think I ended up giving it like 2.5 stars. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it, but I just felt a bit meh about it all. We picked it because the genre that we were reading that month was winter reads, and I thought, oh, this is going to be all about winter, because you follow, it's set in 1885, and you're following someone called Lieutenant Colonel Alan Forrester, who is going on a mapping expedition of Alaska, and he's leaving his wife behind, who's newly pregnant, his wife Sophie. And you follow his journey via journal entries, and you follow her journey via diary entries, and also letters between one another, and also sort of like newspaper articles. And then there's some letters going on in the contemporary world between I think it's Alan Forrester's like great nephew, and then a guy who is a museum curator. But yeah, there's a lot going on in here, and I found the sort of like multimedia aspect of the telling of the story really enjoyable. But yeah, I just didn't love it, and that, like, after a month of loving so many books, it was hard to sort of like have a book that was just fine. So those are the books that I read in the month of November. So many books. What did you guys get up to in the month of November? Did you read some good books? Have you read any of these books that I mentioned here? Do let me know down below, and I will see you all again tomorrow for another Vlogmas video.